Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to talk about this contradiction that I honestly kind of struggle with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we live in this era of what I call aggressive convenience. I mean, think about it. You've got Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. The entire history of recorded sound is just there in your pocket.
It weighs nothing, costs basically nothing per listen. It's the ultimate realization of that old dream.
Yeah.
Frictionless access.
Frictionless.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's perfect. And yet, despite all this perfection, we're seeing this massive, undeniable backflow. People are spending serious money and time on a format that is, objectively speaking, a nightmare to use.
You're talking about the vinyl resurgence.
I am. And I'm not talking about it like it's some, cute, fleeting hipster thing like, I don't know, handlebar mustaches.
Right, not like cassettes making a comeback for 5 minutes.
No. The LP record is actually clawing its way back to genuine cultural status. But here's the thing that gets me. Vinyl is heavy. It warps if you look at it wrong. It gathers dust.
You have to physically get up and flip it over.
Yes. It's the definition of inconvenient media. So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out why on earth we're doing this. Are we just gluttons for punishment?
It's a great question, and to answer it, we're looking at a really compelling column from MMR, that's Monumental Movement Records, and it's titled The Psychology of Vinyl Regression.
Vinyl regression. I like that. It makes it sound like we're sliding backward in evolution.
Well, in a way, the source argues that we are, or at least we're sliding back to a psychological need that digital tech completely ignored.
Yeah.
We're going to look at the psychology of touch, the neuroscience behind why that crackle and pop, which is, technically a flaw, might actually be good for us.
And the Gen Z thing. That's the part that confuses me the most. They're driving this market, but they never even grew up with it.
We'll get there. But let's start with the tech, because you're right. I remember when digital came along, and it felt like a miracle.
It did.
Well, the timeline in the source pins 1982 as the pivotal moment, the arrival of the compact disc.
The CD. Perfect sound forever. That was the slogan, right?
That was the one. And you have to remember the context. Before that, music was so fragile. Tapes would unspool, records got scratched.
Oh, I remember.
The CD promised noiseless, long duration, high durability. It was the beginning of the digital era, promising total transparency.
And transparency is what you want, isn't it? I want to hear the band, not the plastic spinning around.
You would think so. But this is where our source takes a really interesting turn. The argument is that this very transparency became a trap.
How so?
As we went from CDs to MP3s in '99 and then to streaming, the sound became, too perfect. It became sound you cannot touch.
Okay, but sound you cannot touch is just, it's sound. Why is touching it so important?
This is where the source brings in a real heavy hitter from the world of psychology, Donald Winnicott.
Winnicott. I've heard the name. He's a child development guy, right?
Exactly. Winnicott is famous for the concept of the transitional object.
Okay, let's unpack that, because usually when people talk about transitional objects, they mean like toddlers.
They do. Think of a security blanket or a teddy bear.
Okay.
To you or me, objectively, it's just a dirty piece of fabric, no real value. But to a child, that object is everything. It bridges the gap between their inner world and the outside world.
It's a comfort thing.
It provides comfort because it's physical. It has a smell, a texture, a weight.
It's a grounding mechanism. But we're adults. We're supposed to grow out of our teddy bears.
We grow out of the bears, but maybe not the need for grounding. The source argues that for decades, our music collections were that transitional object. You could hold the album cover, smell the vinyl.
And then it just became a file on a hard drive.
And then just a stream of data from a server farm somewhere in Arizona. It lost that teddy bear quality.
So you're saying I can't hug a Spotify playlist?
You can try, but you're just hugging your phone. And think about a phone. It's cold glass. It feels the same whether you're listening to death metal or checking your bank account.
That is a depressing thought. It's all just content under glass.
Precisely. So when we buy vinyl, we aren't just buying the songs. We are buying a sensory anchor. And here's where it gets really interesting with that inconvenience you mentioned.
Yeah, the hassle.
The source says the hassle, the dust, the temperature sensitivity, the weight, that's actually a feature, not a bug.
I am going to push back on that. How can attracting dust be a feature? That just sounds like Stockholm Syndrome. I love my record because it makes me clean it.
No, think about it in terms of effort justification. It's a real psychological principle. We value things more when we have to work for them.
There.
A click-to-play list asks nothing of you. You're passive. But a record requires care. It's almost like a pet.
A pet rock that sings. I like it.
Kind of. If you don't treat it well, it degrades. That requirement for care creates a bond. You have to handle it by the edges, brush the dust off, carefully drop the needle.
You're investing labor into the experience.
Which makes the payoff feel more earned.
I can see that. It's the IKEA effect. I love this wobbly table because I spent 3 hours cursing at it with an Allen wrench.
Exactly. But there's another layer here. The source calls the act of dropping the needle a ritual. And that ritual separates hearing from listening.
That's a key distinction. Hearing is passive, listening is active.
Right, and then there's the sound itself. We need to talk about the Proust effect.
The Proust effect, that's the Madeline cookie thing, right? He dips a cookie in tea and suddenly his entire childhood comes flooding back.
The very same. It's usually associated with smell, but the source says vinyl triggers this with sound, specifically the surface noise.
The pops, the crackles, the hiss. The stuff engineers spent 50 years trying to get rid of.
Yes. That specific hiss triggers what the author calls the auditory passage of time. You see, digital sound is described as present continuous. It's always crisp, always perfect, always now.
It never ages.
A digital file sounds the same today as it will in 1,000 years.
Which, as a tech guy, I think is a triumph.
It's a technical triumph, but maybe a psychological void. Analog sound carries the weight of time. It's the reverberation of memory. When you hear that crackle, your brain subconsciously gets that this is an object moving through time, just like you are.
It feels lived in.
Exactly.
Okay, that's poetic, I'll give you that. But let me play devil's advocate again. I put on noise-canceling headphones to escape noise. I want clarity. Is there any actual science that says this noise is good for us? Or is this just romanticizing bad tech?
There is actual science, and this was the part of the source that really blew my mind. It brings up a concept called 1F fluctuation.
1F. Okay, you're going to have to walk me through that. What is that?
It's often referred to in acoustics as pink noise.
Pink noise. Okay, I know white noise. That's like static. Shh.
Right, and white noise is harsh. It's totally random. Pink noise, or 1F fluctuation, is balanced. It's the pattern you find in nature.
Like what?
The sound of a stream, wind in the trees, even the pattern of a human heartbeat. They aren't perfect metronomes. They have natural irregularities.
So nature is messy.
Nature is fluctuating. And here's the kicker. Analog sound, because it's a physical groove carved into a material, naturally contains these 1F fluctuations.
Digital doesn't.
Digital sound, especially compressed streaming, cuts those out. It cleans the audio to save data.
So digital is too tidy. It's like the uncanny valley for your ears.
Exactly. The source explains that these 1F fluctuations actually resonate with the brain's alpha waves.
Alpha waves, okay.
Those are associated with relaxation, a calm but alert state.
Wait, are you telling me that listening to a scratchy record is basically biohacking my brain into relaxing?
In a sense, yes. We unconsciously crave sound that isn't too perfect. It feels more human and natural to our biology. The noise is physically comfortable in a way that absolute digital silence isn't.
That is wild. It totally reframes the whole idea of high fidelity. Fidelity to what? The master tape or the human experience?
That's the question. And this leads us to a broader philosophical point the source makes, drawing on something called media archaeology.
Media archaeology. Sounds like Indiana Jones looking for old floppy disks.
It's a field of study that looks at how our media formats shape our culture. The source quotes Friedrich Kittler, who said, "Media determine our situation."
Media determine our situation. So the format itself changes how we exist.
Think about it. When you stream music, the music is like water. It flows past you. You don't hold it, you just stand in the river. But the source describes records as sound sculptures.
Sound sculptures. I love that image.
It's the idea of carving time into a physical object. A record is pretty much the only medium where time is touchable. You can look at the grooves and literally see the song.
You can see the quiet parts where the grooves are tight and the loud parts where they're wide.
And the mechanism itself, dropping the needle, starts time, lifting it stops time. It's a physical dialogue with time.
But here's the curveball, right? If this was all just nostalgia, about remembering the good old days of 1975.
And the main buyers would be boomers and Gen X.
People trying to reclaim their youth. Exactly.
Yeah. But it's not. The driving force behind this boom is Gen Z.
The generation that has never known a world without the internet. They have zero analog nostalgia. They didn't grow up rewinding cassettes with a pencil. So why on earth are they spending $30 on a fragile disc when they have TikTok?
This is where we have to talk about anti-transparency.
Anti-transparency, okay.
Think about the apps Gen Z lives in. Everything is a black box. You tap a sleek icon, and an algorithm serves you content. You don't know how it works. You don't know where the file is.
You don't own anything. It's all rented access.
It's magic, but it's also kind of alienating. The source argues that for Gen Z, vinyl is a rebellion against that. Holding a jacket, reading the liner notes, seeing the disc spin, it's proof of experience.
It makes the invisible visible.
Yes, it's a way of verifying reality, like I'm a fan and this physical object proves it.
Fandom in the digital world is just data, isn't it? I listened to this artist for 4,000 minutes. That's just a statistic.
Right, but owning the record, that is a physical stake in the ground. And get this, the source says a significant number of these young buyers don't even own a turntable.
Wait, really? They buy the record and don't play it.
They buy it to have it, to hold the art, to support the artist directly instead of giving them a fraction of a penny per stream. It's a reaction against the whole rental economy.
That makes total sense. If the server crashes or there's a licensing dispute, your Spotify playlist just evaporates.
But the record on your shelf isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, and that fear of things evaporating brings us to the most modern and frankly kind of existential part of the source.
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Looking at our timeline, we're in the 2020s, the era of generative AI.
We are standing on the edge of infinite music. AI can already generate passable pop songs, endless ambient tracks. Soon, music will be fluid, generate on the fly, just for you.
Which sounds cool, but also meaningless. If music is infinite, does it have any value?
That is the crucial question. The source says if you have a faucet that pours unlimited diamonds, diamonds become gravel.
Right.
And as music becomes more generated and infinite, humans are reacting by seeking fixed, finite objects.
We want something that can't be changed.
Yes. A vinyl record is a finite performance. It is stamped in plastic. An algorithm can't update it. It can't remaster it while you sleep. It represents the uniquely human.
That is a powerful way of framing it. It's not about audio quality anymore. It's about humanity. It's a way to prove a human being made this, and a human being is listening to it.
It anchors us. When the digital world feels slippery and fake, the heavy, imperfect vinyl record feels true.
It's funny looking back at that timeline. We started with Edison in 1877, just trying to capture sound.
Yeah.
Then we spent a century trying to perfect it, clean it up, make it portable.
We got all the way to the cloud. Music is air.
And now at the absolute peak of that technology, we're running back to the plastic disc from 1948.
It's a pendulum. We swung all the way to the digital extreme pure efficiency, zero friction, and realized we lost something vital. Now gravity is pulling us back.
So bringing it all together, what's the final synthesis here? Was the source just saying we should all throw our phones away?
No, not at all. Streaming is miraculous for discovery. But the ghost of analog, as the source calls it, is necessary for connection. It ends with this really beautiful thought about the happiness of imperfection.
Happiness of imperfection. I like that.
We're imperfect beings. We age. We have scars. Our memories fade and crackle. The source argues that the warp, the dust, the degradation of a record that is living sound.
We love it because it mirrors our own mortality.
If something is too perfect, it feels alien. If it's a little broken, it feels like us. And the final thought from the column is one that's really going to stick with me. It says, a record is not a tombstone for music.
Okay.
It is a device where human memory itself rotates.
Wow. A device where human memory itself rotates. That puts a whole new spin on my record collection. It's not just storage for songs, it's external storage for who I was when I first heard it.
It creates a landscape of your life that you can physically visit.
That is fantastic. It really forces you to rethink this obsession we have with convenience. We spend so much time and money trying to remove friction from our lives. But maybe the friction is where the meaning is.
Convenience is efficient, but it isn't memorable. You don't remember the easy drive on the highway. You remember the time the car broke down and you had to walk. Friction creates memory.
Wow. That's a heavy thought to leave us with. Okay, listeners, that is our deep dive on the vinyl paradox. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with a provocation, something to mull over.
What's on your mind?
We talked about vinyl, but this applies to everything. I want you to look at your own life. What inconvenient thing do you hold on to simply because the effort makes it feel real? Is it driving a stick shift? Is it using a film camera where you have to wait a week to see the photo?
Handwriting a letter instead of sending a text.
Yes, that's a great challenge. Where do you actively choose the hassle? And think about why you choose it. Is it the effort? Or is it the proof that you are still human in a world of algorithms? Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time.
Take care.